Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on today, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. This land holds generations of storytelling, culture and connection, and I honour the stories that have shaped this country and continue to live on. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. Just play it safe. Just choose the black dress. Just choose the dress that has ruching that covers up all my problem bits. And to that I say, This is Shaunanigans. Welcome back to Shaunanigans. I am thrilled to have you back with me. I am fresh off the plane from Fashion Week, and I thought we could talk about Fashion Week, what it is, what I was doing there. Thought I'd give you the behind the scenes look, because if you're not an influencer, you're not a content creator, and you're not in the fashion world, then it can seem a little like, what are you doing there? What is the point? So I went to Fashion Week with my friend Annika, who's also a content creator and model. And I guess probably the question that I have received most from people is, why are you going? What's the point? Networking for me is the point. Well, I have 2 points, networking and also representation. So it's no surprise that this year a lot of the feedback was, there's no diversity, there's less diversity than other years, Ozempic chic and all of these things. And to that I say, yes, all of that is true. So just to bring it all the way back to the beginning, I went to Australian Fashion Week in Sydney 3 years ago. I was invited to go there for the Curve Runway, which was the one and only time they've ever done an inclusive runway specifically for plus size models. And we never saw it again. It's so unfortunate. And while there were really great Australian fashion labels, it also didn't feel like a true representation of what I believe fashion to be, which is an expression of art. It's an expression of culture. And, you know, they had fashion labels that go up to a size 22, 24, 26, which is really great. They're also everyday labels. And if you have a look at other designers that are at Fashion Week, they have like a lot of statement pieces, a lot of outfits that you wouldn't wear on a day to day. So that's a whole other conversation. I'm not going to poo-poo on the Curve Runway, but I will say that experience was a one-off, unfortunately. And from that moment, I decided that I was going to show up in the best way that I could. So when something like Fashion Week comes around, whether it's Australian Fashion Week, Melbourne Fashion Festival, Melbourne Fashion Week, I organise all of my looks, everything myself. Now, being interstate, I had to organise my own flights and accommodation. So I did that. Annika and I decided we are going to go, we're going to show up, we're going to have some fire looks and represent plus size people, because you never know who's going to show up. We sure as hell know a lot of designers do not cater to us. Most designers do not cater to us, and definitely the Australian fashion industry as a whole just kind of ignores us, which is more of a reason why I would want to show up. So in the weeks leading up to it, I reached out to a few brands and I said, hey, I'm going to Fashion Week. Would you be interested in supplying some outfits? So I went to their websites, picked whatever looks I wanted, created a mood board. I looked at Pinterest to see what kind of outfits I wanted to recreate, especially outfits that look really good on straight size people. I wanted to create that on a plus size body. So that's kind of what I did. Unfortunately, there were some issues with postage, so I didn't get all of my outfits, but I was on my way, went, stayed at a hotel very close to Carriage Works, which is where a lot of the events are at Fashion Week. And I was not loving my hotel experience. It felt like a hostel, and I'm going to be real. I'm not a hostel girly. I am a 4-star minimum girly. This was not it. There were hairballs in my shower. Anyway, that's not the point of the story. Point is, I invested as much as I could into a hotel, into accommodation, into little accessories, and I showed up. The first day we had an influencer event at the Botanic Gardens, and then we had to come back to our hotel, get changed and go to the first runway, which was really interesting. I'll put a picture up, but if you're on my socials, you'll see I wore this incredible maroon suit with a tie. I arrived at the venue. I didn't have an invite to go to this runway. Let me be clear. I didn't have an invite to go to any runways. This year was very different. Previous years, you were able to purchase runway tickets. This year, they've made it very exclusive. It's invite only. I was invited as a delegate, which literally means nothing. They make you do all of this paperwork, fill it out. Why are you coming? What's the purpose? What's your following? And then we were granted being a delegate, but it doesn't actually mean anything other than you're allowed into the public spaces that anyone was allowed into before. So it was a little strange, but we went to the first runway. Annika had an invite. I did not, but I still wanted to show up. And the number of people that A, took my photo, B, were like gushing over my look, because obviously it was great. It's the fact that I showed up with such confidence in a plus size body. Like, I'm a size 20, and it is not common for people in a size 20 body in everyday life for them to show up in such a bold statement outfit. So I knew that absolutely that was going to be the case. I was very specific about choosing that outfit for that night. And I spent the whole evening before the show just being surrounded by people who were like, oh my gosh, what are you wearing? This is incredible. I want to take your photo. This is amazing. And then I got to the part where you go into the runway and they're like, oh, can you show me your ticket? I said, oh no, I'm not invited. And it felt so funny because I looked like I should have been invited, but I was not. But because it was outside of the Museum of Contemporary Art, the models had to like walk through a public space. So we just stood there and we were able to see all the models. So that was really great. But I say all of that to say, I chose to show up without an invite because I wanted people to see someone like me in a space like that. Looking around, I think on that night, there were hundreds of people there. I think there were maybe 3 plus size people that I could see just in attendance, not even necessarily going into the runway, but just people in that space. And that is exactly why I show up, is because I want people who are scrolling their social media, who do get the highlights of Fashion Week, who do get the news highlights, like ABC, Channel 7 interviewed me. I don't know if any of that content ended up on the news or anything, but on the off chance that it did, I wanted someone who looked like me, or who perhaps felt insecure in their body, perhaps felt like they could never see themselves at an event like that. I wanted to show them like, hey, there are people like you that exist and thrive in spaces like this. So that's one of the reasons I went. And the other reason is just to absorb all the creativity. For most of my life, I hated fashion. I hated that I was very limited in the way that I could express myself. I don't think I even really saw fashion as a mode of expression. I thought it was just like you put clothes on and you cover your body. And then as I started to see more and more people experiment in the plus size realm with fashion, I realized like, oh no, it's self-expression, and it's a way to walk into a room and for people to get to know you. We express ourselves in so many different ways as human beings. Some people modify their cars, and that's a form of self-expression. I don't get it. I'm like, what's the point? It just gets you from A to B. But they could say exactly the same thing about clothing and fashion. Other people love to cook for their friends and family. That's their love language. That's their way of expressing themselves. Other people like to decorate their homes in a way that is reflective of them. Other people love collecting figurines and like little action figures. There's so many ways that a human being expresses themselves, and I believe that fashion is such a beautiful way of doing that. Anyway, day 2 was the most intense day. We had an event in the morning, then we went back to the hotel, got changed, went to Carriage Works. Then we went back to the hotel to get changed. We went back to Carriage Works again for a third look. It's important to note as well, when you're at Carriage Works, outside of the runways, there are dozens of photographers and videographers and journalists that are always watching. So you could be having a chat to your friend. Like I was having a chat to Annika, and I clocked 6 cameras on us taking photos, taking videos, like zooming in. And I imagine that's what it feels like to be a celebrity, which is very overwhelming for a lot of people. I thrived. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I love being on. I love being seen. But again, I love being seen because I love expressing myself. And more than that, I'm hoping that someone sitting at home, and it just gives them a little bit more permission to self-express and to show up with confidence. And then Wednesday, fortunately, I got late checkout. It was hysterical to me. I called Annika, or I messaged Annika, and I was like, hey, good morning, how you doing? She's like, good, I've already had a photo shoot and we've just finished breakfast. And Like that girl had 9 outfits for the 3 days. I think I had five or six. And that was enough for me. Like I was tapped out because also not every time, but I did take my makeup off and do it again, partially because Sydney weather was doing a Melbourne bit apparently. And they said it was going to be like 19, 20 and raining. And then it ended up being 22, 23, 24 and humid. And my face was melting off. And there was one of the days we had an event in a greenhouse and it was 24 degrees. And I was wearing cashmere and like long tailored pants and a fluffy hat. And I was like, I felt sweat dripping down my face. It was not cute. And they're the things you don't see on social media, is how physically tolly it is to go from A to B to C to D to E to F and like remain put together. When you think about it, fashion has always been here. Think about the Stone Age, literally 75,000 years ago. They discovered shell necklaces, beads. They used to paint with red ochre. If you think of the ancient Egyptians, they would use eyeliner. It was functional and fashionable. They would use eyeliner as a way to protect their eyes from the sun. They were decked out in jewelry and beads and the finest fabrics. The ancient Greeks and Romans, togas told you everything. Hairstyles told you everything. Politics, gender, class. Outfit changes were constant, especially among the elite. Look at indigenous cultures from around the world. They expressed themselves through body paint and beading and feathers, and it was an expression of their spirituality and connection to earth. And I think that's what really draws me to fashion, is not that it's this idea that you're just peacocking around and who can wear the most expensive outfit. I am so allergic to trends. Like, don't even get me started on Labubus. I simply cannot. And if you're not sure what a Labubu is, it is an ugly little soft toy that you clip onto your bag, I guess. It's like Beanie Babies, but adults were like, I know, I want it. But they're ugly and they go for like $50 to $300. It's insane. I feel like there are a certain group of people who would use something like a Labubu to express themselves. And then there's just the mass hysteria of people like unboxing these mystery boxes like they're on crack and they're just trying to get another hit because they're like, what is inside this mystery box? I can't. Even Birkin bags. I understand it to a point. I understand that there would be some people who love a Birkin bag, but I think a lot of people purchase it for status, and I'm allergic to that. The point is, fashion is a language, and it's something that has existed almost since the beginning of time. It's not just surface level, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's cultural. And being able to witness people engage in fashion in that light, where they want to express themselves spiritually, culturally, emotionally, that is art. That is walking art. And I think that's what makes fashion beautiful. However, I would argue that a lot of people who are engaged in fashion do not use it as a vehicle of self-expression, but they do succumb to hyper-consumerism. And I get it. It's icky. It's gross. I guess if you're listening to this and you're hopefully seeing fashion with a little bit more of this perspective that it's a form of self-expression and art, the question that we can then ask ourselves is, how are we engaging in that self-expression? How are we deciding who we want to be in the world through our clothes? Are we letting other people dictate that? And how, like, where do you even start in terms of self-expression? As I mentioned earlier, I never saw fashion as self-expression. I saw it as a way of hiding, covering up. I would be as beige and black and white as possible because I didn't want to draw more attention to myself. And as we now know, I am the opposite of that. I want to put on clothes that people do a double take because I want to get people to think. I want people to like get a little bit of a kick out of it, maybe giggle if I'm talked about, even in a negative way. I'm like, see, I'm making you think, I'm making you reflect. Now, not everybody is going to be reflective in their judgments, but the reason that I show up the way that I do is because I want people to be inspired, be tickled, especially if you look at today's fashion. I'm in my mid-30s. A lot of brands that I engage with are doing the very like safe corporate, sexy corporate looks, and they are very, very similar. You have a lot of suiting, which I love. I love a suit. We know I love a suit. But I think there's just a lot of clones out there. And that's one of the issues that I have with fashion is that when the trends hit and you have variations of a theme in every store, how do you find something that really feels like you? And I think the beauty of fashion is you're able to try different things on. You're able to figure out what your style is. I am probably 5 years into my fashion journey. I don't even know if that's what you would call it, but 5 years into my consciously trying to figure out my style fashion journey. And I'm still not sure how I would describe myself because I do show up in really, really different ways. But I think that's what's also so fun about it is that you find an outfit that just makes you feel confident and fire. Now, I want you to think about one item of clothing that you absolutely love, that you feel really confident in. It might be a birthday outfit, or perhaps it's a really, really great work fit. Maybe it's a really, really comfy pair of jeans and a sweater. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be informal. Like, it can be whatever you want, but I really want you to think about how that outfit makes you feel and why it makes you feel that way. So for me, I operate from that space in terms of fashion and self-expression. So my goals with fashion are to emote certain feelings and to get people to be curious, to get people to look, to get people to feel inspired and think, oh my gosh, like I would never wear that, but good for her. I'm also big on the comfort. I have no interest in being uncomfortable. There are some days that I will wear a pair of shoes that look excellent with my outfit that I'm like, it works really well. It's for the cause. But 9 times out of 10, I will choose comfort over everything. So have a think about your favorite outfit that just makes you feel amazing. Think about why you love that outfit, why it makes you feel confident. Does it make you feel confident because you are expressing yourself in a way that you wouldn't normally? You feel a little bit edgy. Perhaps it's a really funny character or word or graphic on your shirt. Perhaps it's a really yummy vintage coat. And I also want to invite you, because I'm guilty of doing this, I want to invite you to not fantasize about an outfit that like, oh, I wish, particularly as women, oh, I loved this outfit. I was like 10 kilos lighter, or that was when I was at my slimmest, or blah, blah, blah. I used to always do this where I would love an outfit and then I would fantasize about it, even though like my body was not that shape or size anymore. And I want to invite you to release yourself from that. One of the best ways that I freed myself from this like fashion prison that I had while I hated my body was that I was able to be present with what I had now. And yeah, there are some outfits that I really love that I wish I could go back to, but the reality is this is where I am now. And if I continue living in the past, it's going to take away from the joy of today. So being in a plus size body, let me go back. Being in any body, there's always pressure when it comes to fashion. There's this undercurrent, this underlying, I guess, narrative that you should play it safe. Just play it safe. Just choose the black dress. Just choose the dress that has ruching that covers up all my problem bits. And to that I say, I used to think that way. I wanted to be invisible. I wanted to hide. But then I realized that I could use my fashion and expression as a vehicle to empower other people to show up the way that they want to show up. If you're dimming your light, if you're dimming your sparkle to adhere to these societal fashion rules that, oh, you should play it safe, and especially if you're in a plus size body, you shouldn't be wearing that. And I recognize the plus size fashion industry makes it very hard for people who look like me to express themselves. And I am grateful for brands that do carry my size. On that, I think it's important to note as well, like, I do not subscribe to fast fashion. I think it is an abomination. We've all seen the videos of just piles and piles and piles of clothes and waste. It's enough to make you sick. I will say I have pieces from Shein from 7 years ago before I knew how bad they were. But I have pieces from Shein that I still wear like several times a month in autumn and winter, and they're forever pieces. So I think there's a way that you can engage with fast fashion that is slow and sustainable. Let me be clear, I'm not telling you to go and buy a whole wardrobe from Shein, but I'm also aware as a size 20 woman, I'm not able to buy things that I like from brands that I like because I don't carry my size. Quick detour. If you are not in a plus size body, I just want to gently educate you. As a plus size person, I and a lot of people are familiar with the fat tax. If you're not sure what that is, as a plus size person, if I go into a shopping center, a shopping mall, and I want to try on clothes, there are probably 2 stores that have clothes for me. A big Westfield, for example, there might be 40 clothing stores. I could probably shop at 2, aside from like Kmart and Target and Big W, which I don't particularly always want to shop there because that's not what I'm after all the time. And also, a straight size person shouldn't be forced to only shop at Kmart, Big W, or Target. You get to go to any shop. Anyway, point is, there are some stores like Forever New, for example. They have a curve range. They have a beautiful curve range. They have 3 stores, I think, in Australia that stock their plus size, like their curve range. Everything else, sorry, you have to buy it online. And I'll never forget one day I was needing an outfit. I left it to last minute. I think I was on a pretty tight budget and I didn't want to spend like $20 or $30 in postage. So I went to the shopping center and there were 4 stores that I went into that said, we have extended sizes. And I went and I said, oh, hi, where are your extended sizes? They're like, oh, sorry, it's online only. And I cried in store. And the poor shop girls, because it's not their fault, but that is such a common story for every plus size person. So if you're not in a plus size body and you're like, there's more plus size fashion now than there ever has been, absolutely. However, it's still not accessible. If I want to try a pair of jeans on, I have to purchase them online, purchase 2 or 3 pairs, because let's be honest, if you go in store and you try a pair of jeans on, you're going to grab 2 or 3 different sizes because you're like, oh, I don't know if it's going to be gaping at the back or what. We don't get the luxury of trying on in store. So we have to purchase 2 or 3 styles, pay for shipping. They eventually arrive, try them on. If you're lucky, one of them might fit. If you're unlucky, you then have to send them back. Can't do that with sale items. There's no return on that. So there's the fat tax. Basically, as a plus size person, if I want to try a garment on, not even purchase, but try it on, I have to pay for it. And how wasteful is that? That's something that I refuse to do. Like, I have never made a purchase, partially because I never have the budget, but I have never made a purchase just to try something on because it's such a waste of resources. When you think about it, the printing of the labels, the shipping, they've got to post it to me, the person who's delivering it, like all the fuel. Like, I know that seems really dramatic, and I'm the last person to say like, oh, I'm eco-friendly and I support sustainable fashion. I try. And the way that I try is by not engaging in that. So because of that, I'm very, very limited in what I want to purchase. Or on the flip side, I just purchase what I have access to, which is Kmart, Big W, Target. And a lot of the time it's ill-fitting, it's poorly made, it's not made with fabrics that are going to last after a few washes. So I guess I'm saying that as just a little gentle reminder to all the straight size people, particularly if you don't have anyone in your life that's plus size, that you're actively engaging in their everyday just clothes life journey. It's really difficult and expensive. And I don't want to hear anyone be like, well, you should be skinny. That's not the conversation we're having. It's not the conversation we're having. There's a myriad of reasons why people are in plus size bodies. That is not part of the conversation. The conversation is brands do not want to make the effort to provide us with clothes. I want to invite you to have a little bit of compassion for plus size people in your life who you're like, oh, like, yeah, you don't really have a good sense of fashion. It's because we don't have access. It's because we don't have access. It's because it's far more expensive to dress ourselves because of all of the shipping costs and the return costs. And those of us who do want to preserve whatever planet we have left, that's just not a good option. It's not sustainable. It's not cute. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that. I'm hoping that by the end of this episode, you've been able to have a little bit of a reflection on how you show up in the world. Give yourself permission to express yourself with fashion. You don't have to go get a big pink fluffy coat if that's not your style. If you're like, oh, I think I'd really like to try wearing these colored shoes with my black outfit instead, like do that. Do not wait for other people to tell you how to dress. Do not look at all of the trends that you see on social media. It is so overwhelming and so overstimulating in the fashion world, with people saying like, you should do this, you should wear this, you should do this. The thing that I loved seeing at Fashion Week was so many people expressing themselves in really bold and different ways that went completely against the grain of what's in style, what's on trend. I want to challenge you to break outside of what you think you should wear, because it really doesn't matter. You get to make the rules and you get to choose how you show up in life. Okay, before I let you go, I'm going to talk about my obsessions of the week. Number one, my show that I'm watching. Well, I binged it pretty quickly. 4 seasons. It's got Steve Carell and Tina Fey and a star-studded cast, and it follows the lives of a few different couples who've been friends for 25 years. One of them gets unexpectedly divorced, and it shows how that divorce ripples through all the other relationships. It is a comedy, but there's a lot of really, really heartfelt moments in it. I was surprised. I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to watch it. And my bestie, Courtney, shout out girl, she messaged me, was like, you have to watch it. And I'm glad I did. Big feelings, big laughs. It feels like a step above where I'm at in life. I feel like the key audience would be people in their 40s, maybe 50s, but I still really thoroughly enjoyed it. So that one has 5 stars. And then the song that I'm obsessed with at the moment is called Lucky by Tish Hyman, La Russell and Leon Thomas. I have had, honestly, a pretty rough mental health week probably month. It's been rough. And this song has been such a beautiful meditation of gratitude. So I thought I would share it with you.
Ooh, yeah. Touch. I got shoes on my feet, I'm so lucky. Got a roof over my head, I'm lucky.
Okay, so that's a song. Go listen to it. I'm going to stop recording now because it is getting dark. This is the one thing. It is only 4 o'clock and my apartment is dark. So I've got to figure out a lighting situation because this is not it. This is not it. But thank you so much for tuning in again this week. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to send me a DM. Don't forget to follow me on socials. And I'm just so grateful you're here. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. And I hope that after today's episode, you were able to just learn a little bit more about why people engage in fashion, or why someone like myself would engage in fashion. And perhaps permission yourself to experiment a little bit more and find a little bit more joy in the ways that you decorate and express yourself, because it's a lot of fun and it's a conversation starter and it's a way to connect with people and it's a way to communicate and emote and just share art. So as always, thank you so much for being here and I will see you next week. Bye.
You've been listening to Shaunanigans. If you like what you heard, make sure to hit follow wherever you're listening or watching, leave me a comment, and come hang out with me on socials at shaunanigans.pod on Instagram. Until next time, be kind to yourself, drink your water, romanticize your life, and if all else fails, nap it out and try again tomorrow. Bye!